Hey, this is Vince from Fractal Universe, and you're watching Loud TV. It went really well. Actually, we started writing the songs in late 2019, I think. So we took about 2 years to complete the composition and everything. And we entered the studio in, I think, March of 2020, I guess. And everything was basically recorded in our own studios. Clément, our drummer, has his own professional studio at home. And we did all the rest in our respective home studios. So everything went very smoothly, and we were very happy with the result. Well, yeah, actually it's our second record with Metal Blade, and they have been doing a really great job so far. And actually when we finished recording Rhizomes, we started looking for a bigger label, because we were with a small one at the time. And we reached out to Metal Blade, actually they were the very first label we wrote to. And we knew that the guys knew the band, basically. So we wrote to one of the guys on Twitter, and he answered and talked about the band to his colleagues, and that's how it happened, basically. It was really a dream come true, I think, to work with such an important and an amazing label. So. Regarding the lyrics, we always work with a close friend of us called Arthur Massot. He's a doctor in psychology, and basically what happens is we send the music over to him and we discuss the concept together. So once the full music is written, only then we start thinking about lyrics and themes. And this is basically how it happened. We sent the music over to him and discussed what ideas came to our mind when listening to the songs. And this is what actually happened, basically. So the whole record, talks about death and how we human beings perceive our own mortality and how we manage to live with the fact that our existence will end at some point. And we also took the approach of religion, for example, which is for some people the escape regarding death, and maybe stuff like art as well. And it's right, in different cultures we'll deal with that stuff differently. So this is already fascinating, because we still manage to give meaning to our existences, and despite all of these cultural differences, it always works kind of the same, I think. Well, actually, there are a lot of different influences, some from the metal genre, bands like Cynic, for example, Death. Bands like that have influenced me a lot along the way. But there's also a lot more, so a lot of jazz music, classical music, and progressive rock, and metal in general. So it's really a melting pot of all of these different influences, I think. And even with the addition of the saxophone, I think it really brings a new color to the table, and it blends really well with the rest. Yeah, I think it's great that this happens to metal, because usually when you think of metal, you think of distorted guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. And I think there is a lot more to that. I think you can put a lot of instruments in it. As long as it has the energy of metal, I think you can make a trumpet. You mentioned saxophone really sound metal, and that it works really well. And there is still a long way to go in there and a lot to explore. So I think this is definitely one of the directions metal will take in the coming years, maybe, to add new instruments and new textures and stuff like that. It's true that most of our songs are 4 to 5 minutes. And actually, a lot of them have only a handful of ideas inside of them. So we like to reuse melodies, to reuse rhythms, and to build progressive songs, but that don't go maybe in too many directions at once. But there are still some longer songs on the record. We have one that is 8 minutes long. We had on the previous records also always one longer song. This is definitely something we like, but it's true that especially for live, when you have short sets like today, when you have 30, 35 minutes, it's good to have short songs, because you can highlight different parts of your music in a very short amount of time. So that's also one of the reasons why we do this. Yeah, definitely. Actually, you mentioned it being weird to be back on stage. It's definitely the case, especially in an event like today, a festival with like a lot of bands, a lot of people. It felt good to be back actually. And for next year, we have a huge tour that is going to be announced, I think, in the coming weeks or months. And we are very stoked about that. And yeah, it feels very good to be back on stage finally, and we hope that there will be more and more opportunities for us to play the music live, because that's when it comes to live, basically. Yeah, well, during the pandemic, we tried to make the best out of it. We tried to remain active on social medias. We did a lot of live streams on Twitch, for example, because we had to remain productive. We also recorded a new record during that pandemic. And yeah, it's true that it's not easy, because there are also more and more bands, more and more talented artists out there. So it's hard to really make something out of it. But we are doing our best, and we are really passionate about what we do. So I think that's the most important thing. And now that shows start again, we have even more motivation to keep things going. And yeah, we'll see how it will continue now.